Now, I do want to put to rest that there is some talk, or I think it's been put to rest
Well,
now.
did you talk about the statement that he just put out on Instagram a minute ago?
No, I didn't. Let's read it. Read
Okay.
it to us.
I hoped not to comment on matters at the World Cup. It is my belief that things that happen in a team setting ought to remain private. That being said, statements have been made that reflect on my professionalism and character, so I feel the need to make a brief statement. Just before the World Cup, Coach Berhalter told me that my role at the tournament would be very limited. I was devastated. I am someone who plays with pride and passion. Soccer is my life, and I believe in my abilities. I fully expected and desperately wanted to contribute to the play of a talented group as we tried to make a statement at the World Cup. I am also a very emotional person, and I fully acknowledge that I let my emotions get the best of me and affect my training and behavior for a few days after learning about my limited role. I apologize to my teammates and coach for this, and I was told I was forgiven. Thereafter, I shook off my disappointment and gave everything I had on and off the field. I am disappointed that there is continuing coverage of this matter, in parentheses, as well as some highly fictionalized versions of events, end of parentheses, and extremely surprised that anyone on the U.S. men's team staff would contribute to it. Coach Berhalter has always said that issues that arise with the team will stay in-house, in quotations, so we can focus on team unity and progress.
Okay.
I love my team. I love representing my country, and I am focusing now only on improving and growing as a soccer player and a person. I hope that going forward, each person involved in U.S. soccer focuses only on what is in the best interest of the men's national team so we can enjoy a great success at the World Cup in 2026.
Okay, so I'll jump in. That's a statement that had to be made, given how much smoke was coming his way, and obviously he's got his reputation he has to maintain. I get where he's coming from, and I do think that anybody would be disappointed hearing that same news, especially when you probably think and should be, one of the key guys, and have the talent to do so. Obviously, what I think when I first heard it and first saw it. I understand. Well, I just feel like Greg wanted to get it off of his chest. He wanted to let everybody know why he didn't play Gio Reyna. That's the number one question he was probably going to get. Why didn't you play Gio more? And he just, I think he knew, maybe he didn't know that it was going to blow up like this, especially if he thought he was in a private setting. But at some point it was going to come out. It came out probably a little quicker than he wanted and Gio wanted. It's still kind of fresh and raw how he performed and his lack of minutes. And even when he played for 45, didn't have too much of an impact. But, at that point, we were putting him in a false nine position too.
We've all been in the locker room, all of us. What do you think of a coach coming out and saying these things in public? Because we both know know that there have been a number of players who have done crazier things and nothing has seen the light of day. Talk about fights, all of the above. Yet this happened to come out after the World Cup on top of that, right?
Yeah.
I just think that Greg wanted that to be out there so that he could say, hey, it wasn't me. That, I wasn't the only person at play here. This was.
Yeah, but what do you think of that? Are you okay with
that?
that?
No, I don't agree with it because, and let me jump in really quick, Heath, because in 2006 at the World Cup, for the first and only time, I saw Bruce Arena throw players under the bus. And he threw DeMarcus and Landon Donovan under the bus after we lost to Czech Republic, and in a way that I've never seen. He also pulled us aside after we got back to our hotel and then apologized to the whole team. Basically, like, I was just so emotional. That's just what came out. But he was like number one at always protecting the players and keeping everything in house, and that was really against what he usually did, never singling out any players. And obviously as a coach, taking responsibility for how the team performed and not. Highlighted anybody. It was that was fascinating. And what was fascinating about it, I wasn't around the team enough. I wasn't in, this was my first World Cup cycle with Bruce. And this was number 2 for most of the guys, to see how they reacted to Bruce. It was interesting because all of a sudden you'd start to lose a little bit of that trust that you thought you had with your coach. And so I don't know if he ever regains that with Greg anymore, to be honest.
Yeah. I there's a few things for me. One, the article that comes out or Greg's comments are about the fact that it was addressed and it didn't happen again. So on one hand, I think that's for Gio Reyna a great learning moment and opportunity because he's young And young people do dumb shit all the time. They say dumb stuff. They make dumb decisions. You know, we've got people that make unfixable decisions at his age outside of the pitch and things like that. Footballers that we've seen make decisions that are irreversible, right? They are young. They are kids. They're barely adults, right? So he's going to make those decisions. His emotions did get the best of him. I've seen Gio's emotions get the best of him multiple times. I've seen his body language in the best of times of our national team be negative. I've seen all of that. So if you think that that was something new or something that wasn't, I've talked to players that said that he doesn't care in the same way that others care. Now, that doesn't mean that's not going to be what happens in the future. He was able to get away with some of those things because he's got pure talent. He's got raw talent. Then he was called out. And then he was addressed by players. There was a big thing in the team. They kept it internal. I think it was wrong for Greg Berhalter to release that. That's one of those things that unfortunately might have followed him and ate him up forever, right? Never being able to address the single moment that would clear him of something so controversial, but it needed to stay in. Now, there's reports that it was going to come out anyway, but for it to come from Greg's mouth, I think that was, at least in my perspective, irresponsible because you and I, all of us know, way worse has happened in locker rooms, and that stuff's still buried. We can all share certain stories. We tell stories all the time on here, but there's other stories we're never going to tell. There's other stories we're never going to release or let come out, no matter how much we know. The group chat or the internet would love to hear them, right? So I think it was wrong of Greg to tell those things and wash his hands of that in that moment. Again, this is supposed to be some private conference and not come out and whatever, but everything comes out now. The moment you say it in any context, it's going to come out. But for Gio, I think it's a huge learning moment. And he still has the opportunity now to grow. And I think growth is a really important part of somebody in his face because he has been, not to say he hasn't been through a lot. We know that he's been through tragic things with his family and gone through a lot for a young age, but he has been part of a privileged generation of players that has an incredible amount of talent and the growth that he's had as a player, that him facing this type of adversity and having somebody say, hey, this has to stop at the age that he is going to help him in the future. And so I think, I know there's a lot of people in the comments right now also saying like, who cares about his attitude or whatever. I've been in teams and I want to get your takes, obviously, that if you act like that, it is detrimental to the team. It is toxic to the team to feel like you're above the rules, above the law, that you don't have to whatever, that you think what you're going through is more important than what all of us are going through collectively when we're on the mission of what we're trying to accomplish, that it is a big deal. And what I think people forget is that when you're in a camp and with a team like this, especially the national team, you are together all the time. So every time you're in the showers, every time you're in the meal room, every time you're on the field, I don't know why I started with showers, by the way, guys.
I was like, man, right. Where's your head going, dude?
Man, I really was playing the showers.
I meant to say locker rooms, okay?
Tell us more about the showers.
Yeah. Every time you're in the locker rooms, you're in the meal rooms, guys. You're in the okay, guys. Let me go back on my monologue. Every time you're in the training room,
I can tell that Gio's wiener is really depressed right now.
Yeah.
You know, his toenails really just stood out to me. I don't get it.
Okay. We're dialing it back. Locker room, okay, more specifically. Meal room, training room, hotel rooms, players' lounge,
the bathrooms,
on the bus, anywhere you're going, bathrooms, showers. You feel that tension, and misery loves company. And Jimmy's told the story multiple times of being in the elevator looking for a hug from Casey Keller, and Casey Keller didn't give it to him, right? And when you are in that type of mindset, you want people around you to be like, yeah, you know what? Screw that guy. You know, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Because there are players that maybe don't agree with how Greg coaches or his tactics or whatever. There's plenty of those players in every team that don't necessarily agree with everything a coach says. That is why we are who we are and where we get to where we get to, because we also have our own opinions and our own thoughts that push us. But that can be really, really, really toxic. And we've seen that in generations past with the French national team and others. Like it can be destructive because he's a huge star. So anyways,
no matter how talented an individual is, if they have this attitude, if they walk around and huff and puff and show up to meals late and meetings late and treat people with disrespect and don't work hard, it's a big message if this coach plays this player. It is
you can't do it.
It is detrimental. It is absolutely because I know there's a lot of comments I see in our YouTube comments right now, on Twitter, Instagram, all of it. Man, play your best players. Gio Reyna is one of your best players. It takes away from his quality on the pitch if he plays and acts in that way. If he carries himself where every player is like, man, this kid's entitled as shit. I'm not playing with this guy. I'm not going to work for this guy. This guy expects me to work for him. No, I'm not doing it. And then it's a trickle down effect, and guys start getting in groups and they're talking. Why is he playing over me? I'm working. I've done this. I've done that. And I'm playing every week. You know,
that's when you really start to get the clicks, right? When you start to have everybody separate and go like, oh, now it doesn't matter what I do.